We'd like to start with the Honorable David Grosso, Council Member at Large. The oath will be administered by the Honorable Judge Sippel. He's an Administrative Law Judge, Federal Communications Commission. Council Member Grosso.
Set to go? Where's Maria? Set to go?
Yeah.
Please raise your right hand. I, David Grosso,
I, David Grosso,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the laws of the United States of America
that I will faithfully execute the laws of the United States of America
and of the District of Columbia,
and of the District of Columbia,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States,
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Council of the District of Columbia,
and will faithfully discharge of the duties of the office of the Council of the District of Columbia,
which I am about to enter.
which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
5 minutes, you gotta be kidding me. If you didn't know who that was my, my staff, who really deserve a lot of the credit for why we're here today. Fellow DC residents, thank you all very much for being here today. I'm extremely humbled by the opportunity to serve the people of the District of Columbia for another 4 years on the DC Council. I want to thank my father-in-law, Dick Sippel, who swore me in today, and the right to freely choose our representatives, and thus the right to determine our own path and vision for our city, is not taken lightly by me or any of our residents, because it's not too long ago that we remember we didn't have that right. The fact that voter turnout in the 2016 election was the highest in nearly 2.5 decades indicates that DC residents are more engaged in our democracy, in our governance, and in our quest for self-determination as the 51st state of the United States of America. When I stood before you 4 years ago, we were in a very different position. Confidence in our local government was low, and I vowed to help bring a new day to the District of Columbia, to engage our residents in our democracy, and to be transparent and ethical when exercising the duty of my office. Today, the Council, and indeed our city, is in a better place than ever, and I will continue to fight for real change in DC. I'm particularly proud of what we've done together. We ensured that our children's schools are funded according to need, not politics. We lifted our workers' wages and guaranteed they will not have to choose between taking care of their loved ones and paying their bills. We have promoted the thriving arts and humanities communities and supported a creative economy that a world-class city such as ours deserves. We have just begun reforming our criminal justice system in ways that center on treatment and prevention rather than solely on punishment. And we've continued the upward trajectory of education reform, and in fact, the thing I'm most proud of accomplishing in the past 4 years is the passage of a ban on suspending or expelling 3- and 4-year-olds in our schools. We have effectively in the District of Columbia eliminated the preschool to prison pipeline. As chair of the Education Committee, I want to especially thank and acknowledge the Mayor Muriel Bowser, for her selection of a new chancellor It's going to help us lead the District of Columbia schools to a new place. Thank you, Mayor Bowser. I'm ready and willing to work together, as we have done for the past 2 years since I've been the chair of the committee, to continue to address ways in which we can close the achievement gap, ensure appropriate wraparound services, and put every student in the best position to succeed. It is important to recognize that we entered this next council period under very different circumstances than the last time that I stood before you. The result of the national election reverberated in our city perhaps more than anywhere else in the nation. Many are scared and anxious as our future and the future of our laws are constantly at the whim of a Congress where we have no voting representation from our city, and many of its members have never set foot in our diverse neighborhoods. How we educate our children, address the needs of our workers, promote the health of our residents, maintain the integrity of our families, and even secure our right to a democratic form of government are at this moment very uncertain. In the days after the 2016 election, I was reminded of the spirit and tenacity of our residents. In protest, our students walked out of their classrooms in droves. In solidarity, they marched downtown. With one voice, they declared that we will not be hostage to the hate and divisiveness of the incoming administration. As the only true representatives of DC residents, we too must take up that call. As elected leaders, we must be willing to stand up and speak with one voice against every provocation and threat to our self-governance and the vision that we have for our great city. We must insist that the education of our children will be accountable to the people of the District of Columbia, not directed by those who disdain the value of public education. We must declare that the war on drugs was a grave injustice and continue our march towards a criminal justice reform and rolling back policies that exacerbate racial inequalities. We must protect and respect the rights of women and girls in our LGBTQ community. We must embrace that we are a sanctuary city and that we will protect families and communities from being torn apart by immigration policies rooted in fear and bigotry. And we must declare that we will not tolerate aggressions guised in patriotism and security against our Muslim brothers and sisters. And we must declare that we are the 51st state and demand full participation in our democratic institutions. On all of these issues, there can be no compromise. We are to protect and expand on the progress we've made in the District of Columbia. Everything needed to achieve a shared vision of an even brighter future for our city, improving our schools, reforming our criminal justice system, providing more affordable housing, expanding economic opportunities, empowering individual voters over all the special interests, promoting the arts and humanities. All of this is rooted in a basic respect for human rights. Now is, in fact, the time to deepen our efforts to protect the human rights of all of our residents. In that task, I'm extremely grateful to be surrounded in my office by an amazing and talented team who work tirelessly to make the vision a reality. Their dedication to public service and all of the staff in the council building is admirable, and I would not have accomplished nearly as much as I did without them, and I can't hope to even come close to achieving the agenda we've set for the next 4 years without such a great staff. But most of all, I want to thank the people of the District of Columbia. I want to thank all of you. Thank you for your placing your trust in me, for the opportunity to serve as an at-large council member for another 4 years. Protecting our human rights cannot be done alone. It must be the charge of all of our elected leaders and all of our residents. We must fight for each other. We must work for the most vulnerable among us. We must lift each other up, and we must love one another. Thank you very much.